they did not carry the body out through the door. In old Iceland, when someone died badly, the household broke a hole through the wall of the house. They carried him out through it feet first, so he could not see the way he had come. Then they sealed the hole with stone and left the door alone. Because the dead come back the way they left, and a door remembers. Entry number 5. Most cultures fear a ghost, something thin, something you can walk through. Iceland feared the opposite. The Draugr is not a spirit. It is the body. The same body you washed and wrapped and put in the ground, standing up again with everything still on it, and coming back down the valley to the house it thinks is still its own. The old word for it is aptaganga, the again walker, and the one that stays inside its burial mound instead of walking has its own name, Hogbui, the barrow dweller. They do not return the way they went in. The accounts agree on the swelling. A Draugr comes back larger than the man was, heavier, broader, so heavy that the floor complains and the pallbearers who once carried him easily cannot lift him at all. The Norse had a color for the skin, hellblair, hell blue, the blue-black of a deep bruise all over. The nails have kept growing, the hair has kept growing, and the eyes are open and they hold the light wrong. And it is strong, not a man's strength and not a bear's. In the sagas, the Draugr breaks the backs of horses with its hands and tears the roof beams out of a house, and no living man wins that grip. But here is what makes it different from every other walking dead thing in this bestiary. It is not hungry. It does not want to eat you, or curse your line, or drag you to any underworld. It wants its farm. The Draugr comes back to the house that was his, to the land that was his, to the treasure buried in the mound with him. And everyone living in that house is now, from its point of view, a trespasser. The most complete account we have is a shepherd named Glámr. He was a big, foul-tempered, godless man who took work at a farm no one else would go near, and he refused to fast on Christmas Eve. And that night, he went out to the sheep and did not come back. They found him on the hillside, black and swollen, the ground torn up around him as though something had fought him there. They could not move him. They tried to drag him to a church, and the body became so heavy that they gave up, piled stones over him where he lay, and went home. Then it started. At night, something began riding the roof of the farmhouse, sitting astride the ridge beam and drumming its heels against it until the timbers cracked and the people inside could not sleep. Livestock were found with their necks broken. A shepherd boy was found with every bone in his body broken. The farm hands would not stay. The valley emptied. And that is what puts the Draugr where it sits on our scale. It does not take one traveler on a road. It takes a farm, and then the farms around it until there is no one left to take. So they sent for Grettir. Grettir the Strong, the most famous outlaw in Iceland, a man who had never lost a fight in his life. He came to the farm, and he lay down in the hall in his cloak, and he waited. The door came in. The thing filled the doorway, and the two of them took hold of each other in the dark and wrecked that hall from one end to the other. Benches torn from the walls, the roof beams groaning, neither able to throw the other. Grettir won, barely. They went through the wall together and out into the yard, And there, in the open, the moon came out from behind the clouds. And Grettir made his one mistake. He looked at its face. He said afterwards that of everything he had ever seen, that was the only sight that ever frightened him, the moonlight moving in those eyes. He went cold. His strength went out of him. And while he lay there unable to move, the thing spoke, and it laid a curse on him. "You will grow no stronger than you are now," it said, "and you will never again be at ease in the dark. Everything you have done alone, you will now do afraid." Then Grettir cut its head off, and laid the head against its thighs. And they burned the body to ash and carried the ash far from the valley and buried it where no one would find it. That is the method, and it never changes. You cannot bargain and you cannot outrun it. The head comes off, and the head is placed where the hands cannot reach it, and the body goes into the fire, and the ashes go into the sea. But the curse held. Grettir was never afraid of any living thing again, and never able to be alone in the dark for the rest of his life. He died on a small island because he could no longer bear the nights. That is the Draugr's real weapon, not the grip, the look. And then there is the strangest defense any people ever raised against the dead. In one saga, a household plagued by the walking dead does not send for a hero and does not send for a priest. They convene a court. They summon the dead formally, by name, exactly as they would summon a living man to a legal assembly. They read out the charges, trespass, disturbance of the household. They hear the case. They pass judgment. And one by one, the dead get up, say a line each, and walk out of the house because they have been lawfully evicted. So why would an entire people believe this? Think about what the Draugr actually does. It comes back for the farm. It kills the livestock. It empties the valley. It ruins the household that inherited what was its. That is not a monster story. That is an inheritance dispute. In a place where one farm fed everyone on it, and a bad winter killed you, the dead were never really gone. Their land, their tools, their debts and their claims stayed behind and had to be settled. And medieval Iceland was the most law-obsessed society in Europe, a country with no king and no army, held together entirely by courts and settlements. So of course, they took the dead to court. It was the only weapon they had ever fully trusted. The Draugr is what a property dispute looks like when the other party is a corpse. Entry number 5. The Draugr. The Again Walker. Domain, the grave. Region, Iceland and the Norse North. Class, undead revenant. Preys on, whoever now holds what was his. Danger, 4 out of 5, ravening. Weakness, the head off laid at the thighs and the body burned to ash. The rule, the dead return the way they left. The entry is recorded. The bestiary closes. But it does not stay closed for long.